Well, that explains a lot, doesn't it? Andrea couldn't really say anything beyond this and just sat there. One thing, if just one thing goes right, just once, maybe I can try calming down, but I won't hold my damn breath. But then again, I don't need to repeat myself. You've been talking to Ark after all. You know everything already. Marcus craned his neck, looking at her accusingly. She blushed and stood up. Well, no hiding from you, is there? I'll show myself out. Try to get some sleep, okay? Pfft, yeah, right, sleep, she says. Ah! That's a laugh, Marcus sarcastically said, and returned to his pilot seat, busying himself. Andrea closed the bridge door behind her, coming face to face with Ceres and Serena, with King Valerian leaning against the wall. Well, shit. Actual elves. The reports were not kidding. Wow. Are all human women this gorgeous? Valerian asked idly. Well then. You certainly don't mince words, do you? Andrea said as she approached him. Look around you. Look at our women. We have learned not to waste time and mince words. Men in our world have learned that sweet words and side glances accomplish nothing. We have learned that if we like something, we say we do. Otherwise, someone else does and we lose our chance. I only got my wife as my wife because I simply walked up to her and asked, he said, gesturing to the two girls behind her. Well, that's understandable. Marcus got me the same way. Kinda surprised me at the time. And to answer your question, yes, we are. Andrea smiled and flicked her hair in a flirty way as she walked back to her fighter in the hangar. The two girls looked at Valerian with a scowl. He simply smiled, shrugged, and returned to bed. Ceres and Serena likewise did the same, and the ship went back to quiet. The following morning was abuzz with activity as the royal retinues went fervently to work. By this point, Marcus's radio network was in place, and each of the royals could communicate with their kingdoms and rule from there. Aside from small stuff, there wasn't much to do beyond giving the local regents a few orders to cover their bases. The communications array helped the elven population stay fully aware of what was going on and why. One of the conditions that Marcus detailed with the communications array was no censorship and public access, to which they agreed. Everything was going a lot smoother than expected. By the time everyone had finished breakfast, Arcturus had completed his previous orders, building several prefabs for field hospitals and other things. Thanks to the radio network, the transition was accelerating faster than expected. Marcus, however, was more nervous than usual, and not due to his apprentices crowding around him, and even more so having Andrea nearby too. Come on, where are you? Marcus idly said to himself as the ladies chatted to each other. The radio suddenly crackled to life, and an unnatural, broken, biomechanical voice could be heard through the ship. By the light of the void, I see the path. By the power of the machine, I carve my way. By the fruits of Gaia, I take my steps. But it is through my will alone that I set the world in motion. Praise the machine, brother, Marcus replied in kind. Praise the machine. We have a small frigate on approach, requesting docking permission, following requisition order 77 Omega 3, the voice said again. Confirm order. You are clear to enter. Please obey behavior protocol code 16S. Proceed, Marcus replied again. Marcus, you invited the Mechanicus here? Andrea said. In order to recover my mother's remains, I had to sign a covenant with them. Looks like they're finally here to collect, Marcus said and stood up. Stay, he commanded, heading to the hangar. Andrea went pale and grabbed the over-eager Jacqueline, pulling her away from the bridge door before locking it. Arcturus, lock the interior doors. She commanded and used a hologram to watch what was going on in the hangar bay. Marcus entered the hangar bay and waited as the most ornately decorated warship anyone had ever seen appeared, and entered the hangar bay. The ship came to a slow stop, and within seconds 5 strange men clad in scarlet-red robes walked out. They were not what Andrea was expecting. Apart from the creepy cult robes, it was just 5 normal dudes, no augments, no additions, aside from one very dapper chap who sported a monocle. Brother Marcus, it is so good to see you again, the highest-ranking one said, shaking Marcus's hand enthusiastically. Sure. Please excuse me, I am somewhat stressed, Marcus said, looking lower than he ever has. Well, we have taken over and completed your contract orders. Here you are, the leader guy said and pressed some buttons. The ship's cargo ramp opened and moved down, revealing several carefully packed cargo crates and an oak coffin with a glass window. Marcus moved over to it and collapsed into tears at the sight of his mother's peaceful face from behind the glass. Andrea closed the camera feed out of respect and let him mourn in peace. 2 hours later, the new ship fired its engines and left in a hurry. The 5 men that came with it, though, stayed. Marcus returned to the cockpit and got back in his seat. He let out a huge, satisfied sigh of relief. Care to explain? Andrea asked. The cult Mechanicus have decided to take over the uplifting project. They will assess the situation and try to figure out the best path forward. I'm not qualified for that shit, but they say I did a good job-ish so far. But they can handle it better. So they're here now. I've put them on the quarters in Deck D, and the last of my family are reunited. Talk about a weight off my shoulders. Marcus groaned and stretched out in his seat. The air around him lifted, as if this were the first time in years he'd had a chance to genuinely relax. So, what happens now? Saris asked. Well, they will take over tracking and excavation of the Grey's tech, and also taking care of the human ruins that are still around. They will also see to it that the local populace get up to space, a lot more responsibly than I can, within a much shorter time. My job here is effectively done, Marcus said. Well, Andrea retorted, standing next to him, that simplifies things. Prayers answered, I guess. Well, no. Now I have to find a new world, go there, terraform it, then build it up, then bury the family there. I can't keep it here anyway. Oh, thanks for uplifting us. But we find it offensive that the first thing you did after you gave us starships was to turn our planet into a graveyard herpaderp. Yeah, not happening, Marcus mockingly stated as he started browsing the market. The girls just looked at him. Well, the trauma of your parents' deaths must have made you slightly stupider than I remember, Andrea said blankly, swatting him on the back of the head. The fuck? Marcus jumped out of his seat and looked at them. Andrea pushed him back in his chair and sat in his lap. Oh, come on, are you really that silly? Think about it. Isn't there just a tiny little iota of brain in that thick skull that thinks it might just be a bit wrong about the whole being cursed thing? She pressed her cleavage into his face. Well, You don't think that maybe the whole situation that just arose here is a sign that maybe life's giving you a break? She smiled as she unzipped the top of her nanosuit just enough. I mean, a beautiful planet full of gorgeous chicks who like to be naked all the time, and who very obviously have a thing for you despite the fact it's only been a day. Andrea looked at the assembled ladies with a side glance and smirk. But maybe it could possibly be a thing where the universe is like, I've nearly wiped this guy out and he's had enough. He needs to start living again. Here, bro, have a bunch of gorgeous naked women. You ever think of that? She finished removing her top and slipped out of it. That doesn't work like that. So maybe, just maybe, take advantage? I mean, these girls are clearly very into you. How could they not be? She shoved her cleavage into his face once again. Think about it, dumbass! She yelled, put her top back on, then casually walked out. Come on, ladies. Our future husband needs to think a bit. Andrea ushered the group out, leaving Marcus sitting in his seat with his jaw open, closing the door behind them. Okay, so... Oh, come on. I know. Look, that glint in your eyes, that shiver in your bones, that little tingle you have when you hear his voice. You cannot tell me you aren't into him. I'm not a scion, and even I can tell these things. Andrea pointed her finger at them accusingly. Well, Saris shyly squirmed. So here's the short story as to why you like him so much. He's devoted to any cause and never fails to finish it. He's a family man who will do anything for his kin. He's good-looking and extremely smart because you need to be in order to be a corsair for any length of time. And he's essentially a war hero engineer. He's stupid rich despite what he says, and he has one of the most beautiful ships in the entire sector. I'm not surprised you get a bit wet when you get close. Andrea playfully spanked Saris. Well, wow. Okay. All the girls blushed. Okay. So what do we do now? Jacqueline asked as she picked her jaw off the floor. Patience. I have planted the seed. Soon enough he will open up. I would strongly recommend you take the chance when he offers it. I grew up with that man. I know for a fact he's worth the effort, Andrea said, getting close to Saris. She grabbed the elf girl and kissed her. Saris was taken completely off guard as Andrea gently booped her nose after pulling away with a sultry smile. I'm looking forward to it. You are so soft. Andrea playfully gave Serena's rear a gentle pat, then walked out the door to the hangar.